Hello, good evening, everyone. What's up? What's up? Thanks for tuning in. If you are watching, thank you. What a day. What a past couple of days, right? Um, all right, let's get to it. Welcome, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to Ask Cindy, Season 2, where AskCindy is this online show where we produce in partnership between All Care and BT Partners. Our goal is to take the topics that we find are relevant for entrepreneurs, startup founders, SME business owners, and take these topics and try to discuss and answer them based on our own experience or the experience of people around us. Um, we go live every Tuesday and we try to answer as many questions as we can within 45 minutes. Today's episode, we are going to talk about books that are must reads for CEOs. So if you have a book that you've read, you're a business owner or aspiring to be a business owner, and you have a book that you've read that you have found a lot of inspiration from, or has helped you go through your journey as an entrepreneur, please type it in the comments. Our team will put it in the chat and flag it to me so I can thank you for your recommendation. All right. To my team, are we good? Everything good? Audio, video good? All right, awesome. Okay, so is there a kickoff question that we want to take off of from uh, today? Okay, why are books still relevant in an age that is dominated by digital media? Great question. And obviously, I hope to be able to discuss as many of the books that I've read that have personally helped me throughout my journey uh, as an entrepreneur. Okay. So first things, why are books still relevant? Now, there are many people that I know who enjoy books through audiobooks. I think just before the pandemic, the traffic got so bad that almost everybody I knew were on podcasts and audiobooks, right? Uh, Podcasts and audiobooks were a good way to listen, to put information and knowledge in your brain while being stuck in your commute. Uh, I know a number of people who do at least 3 to 4 books in a month through that medium. I also know people who like reading from their Amazon Kindle or their iPads, and that's also great, right? And again, these are types of books in different formats, very, very helpful. But for me, I still read a lot of physical books. I have some samples here, and I hope to walk you through them today. I love books. I like flipping pages. I am part of those who believe that the the physical touch, the tactile experience of flipping pages, of opening a book helps calm the mind and allow it to absorb more information. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I listen to podcasts, I listen to audiobooks, I still read my iPad. I was on a trip over the weekend. I was reading from my iPad, I was taking notes on the iPad as well. But if I had the choice, if I were going to a place that had no internet connection, no access to electricity, you bet I will have 1 or 2 books with me. So books, I believe, are important for every person, not just CEOs, not just entrepreneurs, not just startup founders. I strongly believe that information, reliable, trustworthy information, is a good input to the brain. Let's not get let's not get political, okay? But I do believe that it's our responsibility to continue improving ourselves, honing our craft, honing our skills and our abilities through reading quality content, including really good books. Okay, so let's get around to a very important topic I want to get to tonight, which is what books are good to read for business leaders, startup founders, CEOs, C-level executives, and aspiring entrepreneurs. Okay, let's go through some of my favorites. I don't have everything with me. I do have an office up in my house where a lot of my books are displayed, but I have some here. Uh, Also, by the way, before we begin, thank you again for everybody who are tuning in, whether it's on our Facebook page or our LinkedIn page, our YouTube or Kumu or even Instagram. I'm not sure if we're on Instagram. I don't think so. But if you're tuning in, thank you so much. We started a little bit late because the mesh up in my office is not working properly. So I had to move down. You'll see a different background, right? This is our living room. Yeah, internet's faster here. Okay, so thanks again. Again, if you have books that you want to recommend for business leaders, executives, founders, entrepreneurs, just type it in the comments so I can shout out those books, recognize your contribution, and thank you, and maybe get on those books as well. Okay, first things first. Not really. This is not in order of expertise and priority, but I really, really like this book. Okay. This book was written by Kim Scott. Okay. Kim Scott worked with Sheryl Sandberg, I think back in Facebook, if I'm not mistaken. If not in Facebook, maybe in Yahoo. Not really, I don't really remember. But yes, she worked with Sheryl Sandberg, and this book is a great compass on how to balance being caring and being challenging. So for those that have worked with me or know me, that's quite my personality, right? At work, I'm your family member. I'm right up there with you, going through your burdens, your battles, bearing stuff with you. But at the same time, I'm the person that really pushes you to the absolute edge to make sure we maximize whatever your skills and talents are. So this book is a good guide for that. It's called Radical Candor, written by Kim Scott. I have it hardbound. So great book. Uh, to my team, if anybody catches on any of the books, they have comments, just please feel free to share it with me. So you'll see here another book that I really, really like. This is called Sales Development Playbook by Trisha Bertuzzi, right here. Okay. Funny because you'll see it's super new. It's barely read. And the reason for that was when I first learned about this book, I didn't have access to it. This is not sold here in the Philippines. So what I did was I did what any entrepreneurial person would do. I found a soft copy online and printed it and bound it, just like what we used to do in college. And then one of my good friends, Ria, who used to work with us in Storm, she got me the actual copy from the States. So, really good book. This book is about building a strong sales team, right? Being able to grow your inside sales. So, inside sales is marketing led sales initiatives. So, awesome. Okay. Another book that is a must read, and this one you'll see has been torn and really, really read to the absolute core. I even have a bookmarker right there. Okay, this is called Work Rules from Laszlo Bock. So Laszlo Bock used to be the head of people operations back at Google. And so this is a book that captures what the foundational working rules were in Google during Laszlo Bock's time. So it includes hiring, developing, training, benefits, incentives. Really, really good book to establish good people operations. So when I was back in Storm, this was a cornerstone book. We would read this, and we even gifted our clients with this book because again, it talks about what makes work meaningful to employees, thereby making them stay. So awesome, awesome book. Okay, I don't know if you can see it, but there. Okay, Work Rules by Laszlo Bock. Okay, another great book that I like is called Predictable Revenue by Aaron Ross and Mary Lou Tyler. So both of them are heavily experienced sales professionals. Aaron Ross used to be a executive at Salesforce. So he built a team that generated at least $100 million a year, and he did it predictably. So this is one of the books that I really come back to when I want a refresher for my own strategies, both for BT Partners and All Care. I love this book. Okay, so I have a soft copy of this, and I have a printed copy. Okay, predictable revenue. Also not sold in the Philippines. So if you have friends, okay, here's one of the books that really changed my perception about what I should do with my life. So when I first became an entrepreneur, I read this book. This is Zero to One from Peter Thiel. If you don't know Peter Thiel, where are you living? So Peter Thiel is the co-founder of PayPal and Palantir. So Palantir is a software company, massive software company. I'm sure you guys know PayPal. Peter Thiel was also one of the first investors of Facebook. So Peter Thiel teaches in this book how a startup goes from zero to one. Some of the concepts here are really mind opening. One of the things that I always lived by on this book is how to build a monopoly. So if you're getting into a business and you cannot find a way to build a monopoly, then rethink your strategy. Okay. So really, really like this book. Super useful for new entrepreneurs or those that feel stuck and want new inspiration. Okay. Another great book, The Lean Startup by Eric Ries. So Eric Ries is an entrepreneur and author of The Lean Startup book. Okay. So he was one of the founders of IMVU, which was later acquired. No? So he now leads a number of companies as a consultant. He does workshops on the lean startup methodology. So really great book just to understand how to get your product out in the market with as little resource spent on the unknown as possible. So again, really good book for starting. The books that I've shown, my dogs are playing. Okay, the books that I've shown, predictable revenue, sales development, they are books that would be more ideal if you have a product. Okay, if you have a business concept, you have a product, and it's already in the market, where the question is about scaling. Okay. Okay, another book that I like, Outbounding. Okay, so this is about cold calling, cold emailing 2.0. So this was written by William Miller, Skip. Okay, he's called Skip. Really, really interesting book. A lot of interesting insights. But basically, cold calling, cold emailing is not dead if you know how to do it the right way. We call it prospecting now. I teach it. Our team in All Care practices it. In BT Partners, we encourage it. We teach it. We systematize it for our clients. Really, really good book. Again, it's available in fully booked. Not cheap though, 1264, but really useful. And one of the longer books that I had the pleasure of reading is called Principles by Real Dalio. You see my copy kind of smudged everywhere, kind of dirty. Right there. All of the bookmarks, right? So Principles by Ray Dalio. If you don't know Ray Dalio, he is the founder of a company called Breakwater, Bridgewater, something like that. Okay, let's make sure we get that right. Uh, Somewhere here, I think Bridgewater. Okay. Yeah, Bridgewater Investments. So Bridgewater, one of the largest investment companies in the country, but also one of the best people cultures, right? And he summarizes all of the company's principles in the book Principles. It is a very boring book. Okay, boring because there's so much information. You can barely get through the first chapter without burning through a pad paper. Look at my highlights. Which part am I not highlighting? Right? So anyway, really, really good book. Again, I got it hardbound. I don't know what's my fascination with hardbound books, but if you're a nerd like me, you probably have hardbound books. Shout out to my friends Peter Cauton, Angeli Rosella, uh, Dino Alcoseba. book geeks also. Another book that I don't have a physical copy of, which is very, very good, is Hard Things About Hard Things by Ben Horowitz. So, Hard Things About Hard Things talks about the struggles that entrepreneurs will face at every point of the business. Really interesting book. Another one is oh my goodness, I will remember it. It's called The Project, something project. Okay. Anyway, to my team who's listening, can somebody reach out to Dino and ask him about that? The Phoenix Project, I think. That's what's that Phoenix Project book. Yes, the Phoenix Project. Super, super hilarious. Gene Kim, George Spafford, and Kevin Bear. So if you are into technology, if you run a software business, or if you sell software, the Phoenix Project book is such a meta book. We read it as a company. The management team of Storm read it back in 2016. Super duper hilarious because it's like we were reading an autobiography about Storm. And we would spend management meetings talking about our insights from the book and some action points that we learned from the book. Super, super useful. So the Phoenix Project and Hard Things About Hard Things are both books that I've read, I've loved, but I don't have physical copies of them. Okay, so those are the books that I recommend. Everybody should get on them. At least one of two of those books will really change the way you look at things. And if you have other recommendations, please feel free to share it with me. But on top of that, why don't we get on some questions to make sure we answer some of the questions that were sent through? Okay, which book would you say is the most influential to you and why? I would say Radical Candor by Kim Scott. Um, and there's a really interesting section there about these diamond workers, these diamond cutters. And I remember she was saying that when she had the story where somebody worked with these diamond cutters and this person was relatively new. I'm not sure if it was her or somebody she knew or somebody she interviewed. But I remember that these diamond cutters, they were Russians and they couldn't care less about this new manager that they had. But this manager spent time meeting them, meeting their families, learning about their culture, learning about their work. Even if she was a manager, she spent time learning about cutting diamonds, about diamonds. So much so that she started to earn the respect and trust of the diamond cutters. When it came to a point that she was going to lay down some bad news or give them performance feedback, it became more like talking to your family because they knew that she cared. I may have botched the section a little bit, but the point is, from this book, a lot of my leadership principles I've formed. Uh, the examples here have really touched me, have resonated with me, and I try with my absolute bestest to practice that kind of leadership where we call it radical candor, the intersection between challenging directly and caring deeply. Really, really great book. If you are leading a team, I suggest you get on it as soon as you can. Yeah. Okay. Next question. Is there any more? What books have you recently read that you found hardest to put down after getting started? Um, I don't know if I read anything. Okay. So for those that don't know, I have uh a number of literature credits under me because I was gonna go to law school, right? So if you know that, you'll know that in Ateneo you would have gone through a number of lit classes. One of the things that I really enjoyed and uh, just finished recently is the book called "100-Year-Old Man Who Climbed Out the Window and Disappeared." Okay, if you have not read that, you should read that. The 100-Year-Old Man Who Climbed Out the Window and Disappeared. Absolutely enjoyed that. I wouldn't say I couldn't drop it because you know, I'm just not the kind, but really enjoyed that. I also really liked 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Marquez. Um, who else? But my all-time favorite book that I've not been able to put down my entire life, like the ultimate best, the Harry Potter, the the series, the seven ba? Eight, di ko na maalala. But yeah, so ayun. So meron pa ba? No, the last 5 years I've not had the pleasure of reading nonfiction. So I started reading Becoming by Michelle Obama. Really good. I read the first three chapters and then I got busy. So yeah, but yeah, unfortunately, I've spent the last 5 years just reading a lot of business and sales and marketing books. Yes. Okay. What else? If you were to recommend a book to a younger, less experienced Cindy, what would it be? Number one, I'm really going to tell myself, do not stop reading. Don't stop at Harry Potter. um, read. I did not have the pleasure of reading uh, Game of Thrones, nor was Game of Thrones a book? I don't remember. The other one, the yeah, okay. So Game of Thrones was a book. I think George R. Martin did. Uh, tama ba? But there's another one, yung ano, Lord of the Rings. Yeah. So yun, I did not have the pleasure of reading those. So I would tell myself, make sure to read those. But at the same time, um, I really enjoyed autobiographies. I was surprised that I enjoyed them as much as I did. Um, para kasing ang dami mong matututunan from the experiences. And if you look at a lot of the business books that I've showed you tonight, they're kind of autobios in the sense that they're speaking from experience, right? They're sharing tips, techniques, and information, knowledge, critical knowledge based on what they've experienced personally in their own respective organizations, right? So I would tell myself, be sure to spend time reading autobios. J.R.R. Tolkien, yes. Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings. Okay, so yun, that's what I would have said. What's the most surprising and or unexpected expected thing you've learned from a book? Okay, many years ago, I went through a bad breakup, and there's a book that I read from Eckhart Tolle. Okay, uh, The Power of Now. Have you guys? Okay, so I don't really like Eckhart Tolle. I hope I'm not botching his name. I don't really like him because for me, kind of like this stoic writer na parang, everything is in our power kind of person. And as a Christian, obviously, I kind of know that doesn't quite work, right? But at the same time, when I was going through that heartbreak, um, he said something that I found interesting, and that was that sometimes our ego tells us that we are our feelings, right? And well, what he said was feelings are different from who you are. Feelings are things you have. They're really different. They're separate from you. You are not your feelings. So uh, and so going through a breakup, that was quite interesting, right? Because I was able to really think about the feelings that I was having at the time. So and then I began the process of healing and para being able to figure out how I want to really live my life and parang be objective and logical about what can I take away from that relationship, 'di ba? So really interesting thing. I mean, I don't like self-help books, not because I don't believe them, but I just find them quite boring. I prefer mga technical books or like autobios or really nice nonfiction legendary stuff. Um, yeah, so that's one. The other one is this book by Ryan Holiday. Again, the reason these are more like your stoic authors na parang self-help ang datingan is because I rarely read them. And so when I do open up a book like these, I find them like, oh, that's quite an interesting insight. And I distinctly remember this. The book is called Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. And I was trying to do pull-ups in the gym. And I was listening to this section about pushing the rock up. And if you do not do it, eventually you'll have to come and meet that rock again. But once you push the rock over, it's done and dusted, right? So the obstacle, so basically the point was better get through it and be done with it. And then from there comes that, sense of triumph and confidence. And remember, I was listening to this section, I was doing a pull-up that I could barely manage. So, super, parang naging core memory siya kasi nga, I was living in that moment where I had an obstacle, aka the pull-up. Ayan. Okay, dapat yung ibang books sa team ko that may paganyan din, yung parang books that I recommended, no? Para medyo cool. Oh, hello to my dog. Okay, any other questions that are worth discussing tonight? Have you read any non-business related books that are still hello? Have you read any non-business related books that are still relevant in that field? You mean like the business field? Let's just assume that's in the business field, right? We can't ask the person who asked this question. Okay. All books for me can be helpful to any field. And that might be a hasty generalization, but in my mind, number one, reading keeps the mind sharp. So whatever you're reading, it's training your brain, right? Second, if you're reading anything that's worth its salt, like an autobio, a business book, or even literary pieces like the stuff that I read, the Metaphor, The Stranger, like Gabriel Garcia Marquez and stuff like that. Even if they don't directly help you in the field, the experiences, the inspiration, the vicarious living, they can still impact you as a person, therefore impacting your business, impacting you as a business leader. Syempre, more direct would be the business books and the leadership books, right? But for me, any material with good content, good writing, that comes from a good place, like good authorship, can help you. And more importantly, if you don't have anything to read, pick up your Bible. I know that sounds cheesy, but there are a lot of leadership lessons in the Bible, starting from Moses, right? Our team last week, we talked about Moses and Jethro and how Moses being the leader that took Israel through the Red Sea, that just uh, led them out of slavery, humbled himself and listened to Jethro, right, as an outside source of wisdom. And so that for me is a great source of insight that can help you become a great business leader. So for me, all books can impact you, especially the ones that are really, really good. Um, but yeah, Bible would be one of the greater books that you can really help yourself become a better leader with. And then autobios, really like those stuff. Yeah, yeah. What should I keep an eye out for when looking for a good book about business and leadership? Okay, so great question. And I want to spend a bit of time on this. So if you're listening with this live or the recorded version, try to focus at this part. Okay. There are a lot of books that come out in the bookstore. You walk into a fully booked or a national bookstore or Power Books or any bookstore for that matter. If you go on Amazon, you'll be overwhelmed with the choices. Now, one of the things that I discovered is if you found a book that you really really like, go ahead and look for this author's community and peers. Because naturally, let's say you got a book from Adam Grant, and I really like his book, The Originals. If I look at Adam Grant and I look at his contemporaries, I'll end up with the likes of maybe Sheryl Sandberg, right? Or Malcolm Gladwell. And those are no fail great authors. Like I really like their book. I like Option B, uh, uh, Think Hard, Think Fast. I think is the title of the other one that I like from Gladwell. And so you're not going to steer very far. But if you walk into a bookstore and you really have no clue as to what you're looking at, don't just pick up anything that has a nice title. Okay. What I would recommend is look at the page of the author, look at their accomplishments. Are they relevant? Look at the companies they've worked for. Are they any good? Are there familiar names in there? You're in the bookstore, you have your phone with you, Google. Do a quick Google search on these people and check if any of their credentials sound good to you. Many will claim they're sales experts, many will claim they're marketing experts, they've built empires, quote unquote. But when you look at their track record or the companies they've actually built, it's not there. And you'll be wasting your time. Well, still not a waste of time because again, any book can be a good addition, whether to learn from it, like to copy it, or learn from what not to do, right? Um, but a lot of the books that you see that I've shared with tonight, mostly they're from their own contemporaries or they're people that I respect their credibility and their professional experience in the field that they are representing. So again, don't jump into any book that sounds like, oh, it's on sale, let's go get it. Or, "Oh, I saw somebody with this book, let's buy it." Make your own research. So I hope you guys do that. How can you bring yourself to finish a book when it's so easy to get distracted? Amen. Amen to that. Technique: one chapter in the morning, one chapter in the evening. Super easy, right? Before you know it, you're doing two chapters in the morning, two chapters in the evening, then you'll be done. The other thing is I bring my book in the bathroom. So, if you're doing number two, you bring your book, di ba? Two in one. Instead of reading the label of the shampoo, label of your toothpaste, I know a lot of you are doing this. This is already proven in research agencies that people do this, di ba? That's why there are memes about this. Instead, if you bring a book, you're reading good content. Um, and I always bring a book. I bring a book when I travel. I'm reading in the airport. I'm reading in the plane, in the bus stop. All of the travel points I'm reading. And I like reading as a way to recharge. So if you are on a trip, bring a book. Always bring a book. I have friends that live and die by that rule. They always bring a book. So you always see them with an eco bag or a canvas bag, and there's a book inside there to no surprise. So yun. And then if you're really serious about reading, swap your social media time for reading. So if you are spending about 3 hours in the morning in social media, to 3 hours in the evening for social media, try to swap an hour each to read. Before you know it, you're not on your phone. More time on your books. Yan. Meron pa ba? Nako, parang ano ito, delikado to ah. Which well-known books would you say are overrated? Which ones would you say are underrated? Okay. I don't necessarily have a lot of love for Gary Vaynerchuk. Um, I like some of his stuff. Some of the things he says, I don't necessarily agree with. And so I think some of his books are overrated. Um, Especially some of the books I want to buy are expensive. So in my mind, like whatever I would spend on Gary Vaynerchuk's books, I would just add to other books. So yun. Uh, Underrated. I think all of the books that I presented are generally underrated, right? I don't know a lot of people outside of the startup ecosystem that have read Radical Candor or Zero to One or even Work Rules, right? Or Principles, because again, it's like a big fat book. But they're really, really good books. So I would say they're underrated. Um, yung mga literary masters that I enumerated earlier, like Gabriel Garcia Marquez, Albert Camus, um, those authors, hindi ko na ine-expect na magugustuhan ng madlang people because they have different taste, right? Kung hindi yun required, I would not have read it. Except I was surprised that I enjoyed it. So, ayun. Yes, so wala akong masyadong ma-comment sa overrated, underrated, but I do encourage you guys to look up contemporaries. Like if you look up Sheryl Sandberg, you look at her history, you look at the books that she's written and the books that she's read, you'll see it's Adam Grant, people within her contemporary. Okay, maybe we have time for maybe one last question right there. Oh, that was the last question. Okay, so after this, okay, let's do that. A quick run through of the books that I recommended. So number one, Radical Candor by Kim Scott. Good book about leadership and how to become a good leader. Another good book. If you are starting to build a business and you don't know rules, you don't know a lot about people operations, great guide. Work Rules by Laszlo Bach, used to be the people operations head at Google. Another great book, foundational book for entrepreneurs, Zero to One, written by Peter Thiel, one of the first investors of Facebook, co-founder at PayPal and Palantir. Um, Lean Startup, if you're starting a technology company, really great to, or not even a technology company, any company would be good. Ito, okay. Lean Startup by Eric Ries. And then, okay, more books about sales development by Trisha Bertuzzi. Really good book. Predictable Revenue by Aaron Oz. This was written a number of years ago, but this is really that the era that he wrote this. That was the seed of revenue operations. And then one of the recent ones that I just finished, Outbounding from Skip Miller. Really good stuff, technical stuff though for sales. And then Principles by Ray Dalio, hindi ko na siya abot. But yan, Principles by Ray Dalio, I think I saw it in Fully Book last week. Okay, so thank you guys for listening to tonight's episode of Ask Cindy. Again, if you came in the middle of the episode, Ask Cindy is a show where we talk about topics that are relevant to founders, startup founders, entrepreneurs, MSME business owners, business leaders, and even those who want to be entrepreneurs. We take the topics that matter to them and we try to share on those topics based on our own experience. We're not experts, but we try to share what we know and what we don't know. So there, we go live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Today we started a bit late because of technical difficulties, but I hope this episode was helpful to you. Another thing, on Thursday, May 12, 2 p.m., we are doing a free webinar, super, super important, relevant webinar called Hybrid Working 101, Successfully Transitioning to the New World of Work. This is absolutely free, part of the All Care Academy webinar series. We have two guest speakers, Miggy Zaballero, who is a partner, and Tala Ocampo is a senior consultant at Management Strategies. Amazing presenters on May 12, 2 p.m. Absolutely free. If you are a business leader or an entrepreneur and you're slowly going back to the office, you are going to go into hybrid working mode. This is a webinar you should not miss. If you can't come, send somebody to watch or just sign up so we can send you a copy of the download. Okay, so for those that are wondering why we're doing this, so All Care sponsored this episode, or the backbone of this episode. All Care is a benefits platform that lets employees and all other types of workers, both from the gig economy, SMEs, startups, whatever type of worker you are, we provide you access to relevant and comprehensive benefits, including healthcare, life insurance, optical care, mental health and wellness, and other perks like your birthday cake and some other medicine voucher and similar stuff. We make it easy for your team to be taken care of. Okay. BT Partners, on the other hand, also a partner on this episode, is a revenue operations consulting company. BT Partners helps companies maximize revenue at every point of the customer life cycle. So if you're not able to create the pipeline that you need to hit your targets, and if you're closing deals but they're not where they need to be, then BT Partners can help you. All right. So keep tabs on our social media channels, both on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Kumu. We will continue to post updates on the next episode, the question or the topic that we will talk about. And again, see you next Tuesday, 8 p.m. on Ask Cindy. Bye.